Hi, everybody. Well, I had a pretty long day at work today and got home from work and had a cup of tea and some watermelon, so I'm feeling a little bit more energized now. And so I thought I'd do a quick rundown on the most recent book that I read because I almost always have energy to talk about a book. In this case, the book is called Gulp: Adventures on the Alimentary Canal by Mary Roach. There is the cover. I read this electronically as per my usual. So there it is. This was published in 2013 by Norton Press. I had heard about Mary Roach a number of years ago. She writes these kind of popular science books, and she had written one a few years ago called Stiff, and it was about cadavers. And so I had heard her on maybe NPR or somewhere like that, and I thought, oh, that sounds so good. Well, I never wound up reading Stiff, but then I came across Gulp a while back, and I put this on my to be read list because, over the last couple of years, I've really had an interest in, nutrition and, the GI system in general. And so I thought this would be good to read. So I decided to put it on my TBR, and I'm just not getting around to reading it. So what it's about is basically it's a really pop science, pop nonfiction view of, well, maybe I should start with what I thought the book was going to be about versus what the book's actually about. So what I thought the book was going to be about was this popular science kind of popularized science of the GI tract. And so I went into the book sort of expecting this. I knew she had the reputation of being like a really funny writer, and I had the expectation of sort of starting maybe at the mouth and winding up through the whole GI tract in sort of a fun kind of run down the system. What the book's actually about is anecdotal sort of takes on various aspects of the GI system. So it starts off with like smell, because smell is such an inherent component of taste, and then chewing, and she goes back in time, like for example, to back in the 19th century when there was this fad movement of chewing your food like 100 times or something, and how that was thought to aid in nutrition and etc., and how that ultimately got debunked. And so she goes every sort of topic like this: taste and smell, smell and taste, and chewing. She talks about things like the stomach size, like can you live if you get swallowed by another animal, or can another animal live if you ate something alive? Would it live in? How long would it live in you? And she talks about other things like she does spend a little bit of time on the microorganism of the biome of the intestines. The microorganism sort of now the kind of the hot topic of how bacteria colonies, trillions of bacteria, really govern lots of aspects of our GI system and our health in general. She talks about chronic constipation and megacolons, like Elvis had, and is thought to have died from. So this is not what I was really expecting. I mean, it was very entertaining, but it wasn't what I was expecting from the book. So my experience of it, I was a little disappointed in that because the book was very easy to read. I read this in like a day and a half, and that was going in several sittings because I had a lot of other things going on. So it was very easy to read. As far as pop nonfiction, I mean, I realized that it's written for the most general mass audience possible, and it needs to be, light and fun and entertaining. And it is light and fun and entertaining, but it's so light, it's just practically transparent. I did get a couple of, really good takeaways from it, though. One thing that sort of popped into my attention was this section at the beginning about the smell and taste, and she actually goes and spends some time with professional tasters and professional smellers, and how these people have the ability to put smells, and the experience of smell is not a verbal experience, and neither is taste, beyond our just sort of our standard sour, sweet, etc. But so I thought that was real cool, because I've run into this. I've done several videos. If you've seen some of my other videos, I've done videos on music of various kinds, like classical music and opera, and sometimes I find it really hard to describe in words what the music, like the emotion that the music caused. So I thought that was kind of cool, because she makes the point that when these tasters can detect these multiple layers of taste and smell in food, and other people come along and have an experience, and it's an unconscious emotional experience that they have with the food, but they're not able to break it down into sort of its micro components, like a professional smeller or a professional taster can do. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think another interesting thing about that I learned at the very beginning of the book was about what was I going to say? Oh, the taste. So culture, how culture influence. Sorry, my cat's distracting me. How culture influences our what we consider to be good food-wise. That by the age of around 10 years old, that it's pretty much set that a child will consider some foods good and some things edible and some things not edible. So she visited some Inuit in like Canada or Alaska, and they eat things like seal eyes, that they consider good, but maybe a lot of us would not consider eating seal eyes, with the eye itself, with the nerve still attached to it, as something that would be, food for us. And so, this was really interesting to me, because I really had this experience when I went vegan about almost 4 years ago, and people just reacted so weird to that. I didn't really expect to get kind of the blowback that I got from a lot of people, but it was people got very threatened by me adopting a different food choice than others of my own culture. And so I really saw this sort of deep ingrained sort of belief system that we build around food, and she talks about that a bit in the book. So I thought that was interesting. And then finally I just like to shout out, I think, to the scientists. I've done this when I've read a couple of other nonfiction books, like recently about the horse, the wheel, and language, where just archaeologists and linguists, they spend their entire careers working on some small piece of knowledge that that is just ultimately, in the big picture of things, becomes important and expands our knowledge base, generally speaking. But in the GI system as well, scientists who are working on saliva, the microbiome that I mentioned before, there's scientists all around the world that devote themselves to these sort of really focused areas of inquiry, scientific inquiry, and I just need to give them a shout out, because I just wish I was that focused on something that they can spend years actually working on this one small kind of component of being. So I think that's cool. So I think I'll leave it at that. I was a bit disappointed in the book. It was a little fluffier than I had expected. But I'm glad I did finally go ahead and read one of Mary Roach's books, because I've been curious about her as a writer for quite some time, and she is a very good, entertaining and engaging writer. That's for sure. So that's it for now. I will be checking in with another book or another video very soon. So stay tuned for that. Take care. Bye.